You know that moment when someone tells you that you're nothing without them? Like your whole existence depends on their presence? Yeah, that's what my mother in law told me the day my husband died. My name is Amara. I'm 34 years old, originally from Nigeria, and I moved to the United States when I married my husband, James. This is the story of how I was told I'd never survive without my mother in law's help, and how I proved everyone wrong in ways they never saw coming. But let me start from the beginning, because this story, it's a journey, y'all. I met James 6 years ago when he was working in Lagos for an American tech company. He was this sweet, gentle guy from Boston, completely different from anyone I'd ever dated. We fell in love fast, like really fast. Within a year, we were married, and I was moving to America to start our life together. James's family was complicated. His mother, Patricia Whitmore, was one of those women who believed her son could do no wrong, and any woman he chose would never be good enough. When James told her he was marrying an African woman, she didn't take it well. You're throwing away your future, she told him on a phone call I wasn't supposed to hear. Marrying some girl from Africa who probably just wants a green card. I heard that and my heart broke a little. But James defended me, always defended me. Mom, Amara is educated, successful, amazing. I love her. You'll love her, too, once you meet her. She didn't. Patricia made it clear from day one that I wasn't welcome in the family. At our wedding, she wore black, like she was mourning, made snide comments about my traditional Nigerian attire, told anyone who would listen that James was making a mistake. But we made it work. James and I were happy. We moved to Seattle, away from his family in Boston, and built our own life. I was working on getting my nursing credentials transferred from Nigeria. Turns out American healthcare systems don't just accept foreign credentials easily. Who knew? So while I was studying and taking exams, I worked at a grocery store. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest work. I wasn't ashamed. Patricia was, though. Every time she visited, she'd make comments. Still working at that grocery store, Amara? When are you going to do something real with your life? James would shut her down. Mom, she's studying for her licensing exams. She's going to be a registered nurse. Stop. 3 years into our marriage, I finally passed all my exams. Got my RN license. Started working at a hospital in Seattle. I was so proud. James was so proud. Patricia? She barely acknowledged it. Just said, well, it's about time. But I didn't let her steal my joy. I had my husband, my career, my life. Everything was good. And then, 2 years ago, everything changed. James had a heart attack. Out of nowhere. He was only 36 years old, healthy, active. But he had an undiagnosed heart condition, and one morning he collapsed at work. By the time I got to the hospital, he was gone. Just like that. My husband, my best friend, my partner, gone. I was destroyed. Destroyed. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, could barely function. And that's when Patricia swooped in. The day after James's funeral, Patricia sat me down in my living room, the home James and I had bought together, and said words I'll never forget. Amara, I know you're grieving. We all are. But we need to talk about your future. My future? Yes, you're a widow now, alone in a foreign country. No family here. You can't possibly manage on your own. I just stared at her. I have a job. I have friends. I'll be okay. She laughed. Not a kind laugh, a condescending one. Sweetheart, you don't understand how hard this will be. You're not American. You don't understand how things work here. You're going to need help. My help. What are you saying? I'm saying you should move back to Boston. Live with me. Let me take care of you. Because honestly, darling, you'll never survive without me. Without this family. I felt anger rising through my grief. Patricia, I appreciate your concern, but I have a career here. A life here. I'm not moving to Boston. And how exactly do you plan to maintain that life? The mortgage on this house? The bills? James's life insurance will run out eventually. Then what? Then I'll figure it out. I'm a nurse. I make good money. She gave me this pitying look that made my skin crawl. Amara, you're being naive. You're from Nigeria. You don't have family wealth. You don't have connections. You don't have the resources to survive here alone. I survived in Nigeria just fine before I met James. This isn't Nigeria. This is America. And you're going to fall apart without support. James was your lifeline here. Without him, you're nothing. Without him, you're nothing. Those words echoed in my head for days. Not because I believed them, but because she'd said them with such confidence, such certainty that I would fail. Patricia stayed in Seattle for another week, constantly trying to convince me to move to Boston. When I kept refusing, her tactics changed. You're being selfish, she'd say. James would want you to be with family. With his family, you're going to regret this when you're struggling alone and have no one to turn to. I'm trying to help you and you're being stubborn. That's your problem. You're too proud to accept help. Her friends started calling too. James's aunts, cousins, and family friends. All of them are saying the same thing. You should move to Boston. Let Patricia help you. You can't do this alone. It was like a coordinated campaign to break me down, to make me believe I was incapable of surviving without the Whitmore family. But here's what Patricia didn't know about me, what none of them knew. I'm Nigerian. I'm Igbo specifically. And if there's one thing Igbo women know how to do, it's survive. Thrive, even. My mother raised 3 children after my father died when I was 10. She ran a successful business, put all of us through university, and never once acted like we were helpless. When I told her about Patricia's offer on the phone, you know what she said? Amara, that woman doesn't want to help you. She wants to control you. She never accepted you as James's wife. Don't give her power over your life now that he's gone. My mother was right. This wasn't about help. This was about Patricia finally getting what she'd always wanted, me out of her son's life, even if it meant his death to make it happen. So I told Patricia no. Firmly. Finally. I'm staying in Seattle. I'm keeping my job. I'm keeping my house. I'll grieve my husband, but I'll do it on my own terms. Thank you for your offer, but I don't need your help. She was furious. You're making a huge mistake. Don't come crying to me when everything falls apart. I won't. And she left. Went back to Boston. Told everyone I'd refused her generous offer and was being stubborn and proud. Fine. Let her think that. I had work to do. Those first few months after James died were the hardest of my life. Not because I couldn't survive without Patricia's help, but because grief is heavy, y'all. It's so heavy. I'd come home from 12-hour nursing shifts and just cry. Sit in the dark and cry. Look at James's photos and cry. But I kept going, kept working, kept paying my bills, kept proving that I could survive. My co-workers at the hospital became my support system. My manager, Sarah, checked on me regularly. My fellow nurses brought me food when they knew I wasn't eating. They became my American family. I also connected with the Nigerian community in Seattle, found a church where other Nigerians worshiped, made friends who understood my culture, my language, my pain. Slowly, I started rebuilding my life. Not the life I'd planned with James, but a new life. My life. 6 months after James died, I got promoted at work. I'd been working extra shifts, taking on additional responsibilities, proving myself invaluable. Amara, we want you to become the charge nurse for the cardiac unit, Sarah told me. You're the best nurse we have, and the team respects you. I cried when she told me. Happy tears this time, because I was doing it. I was surviving, thriving even. The promotion came with a significant raise, enough that I could comfortably afford my mortgage and start saving again. I called my mother in Nigeria to tell her. She was so proud. See, you don't need that woman's help. You're doing just fine. I didn't tell Patricia. Why would I? She'd made it clear that she expected me to fail. I didn't know her updates on my success, but she found out anyway, through family gossip. And she called me. I heard you got a promotion, she said, her tone suggesting she didn't believe it. I did. I'm the charge nurse for the cardiac unit now. Well, that's good, I suppose. But don't think this means you've proven me wrong. One promotion doesn't mean you're stable. Things can still fall apart. Thank you for your concern, Patricia. But I'm doing fine. We'll see how long that lasts. She hung up. I stood there, phone in hand, and laughed. Actually laughed, because her bitterness was showing. She'd been so sure I'd fail, so sure I'd come crawling back to her, that my success was like a personal insult to her. Good. Let her be mad. I had a life to live. About a year after James died, I started thinking about my future differently. I'd been surviving, yes, but I wanted to do more than survive. I wanted to build something. James had left me his life insurance money, about $300,000. I'd been sitting on it, afraid to touch it, feeling like it was all I had left of him. But one day, talking to a financial advisor at the hospital, I realized something. James would want me to use this money to build a future, not just save it and pretend it was him. What are your goals? The advisor asked. I want to invest in real estate. Maybe buy a rental property. Build wealth. That's smart. With Seattle's housing market, rental properties are excellent investments. So I did it. I bought a duplex in a good neighborhood, lived in one unit, rented out the other. The rental income covered my mortgage on both properties, plus gave me extra income. I also started taking real estate investment courses online, learning about property management, market analysis, and renovation value. I was building knowledge, building skills, building a future. Within 6 months, I bought another property, a small single-family home that needed work. I hired contractors, oversaw the renovation, and rented it out. The rental income from both properties, plus my nursing salary, meant I was making more money than I ever had. I was building wealth, real, tangible wealth, and I was doing it all without Patricia's help. Without anyone's help, really. Just me, my determination, and my willingness to learn. My Nigerian friends were proud of me. You're doing what our mothers taught us, one friend said. Work hard, save money, invest, build. My American coworkers were impressed, too. You're like a real estate mogul. Sarah joked, while working full-time as a nurse. How do you do it? I don't have a choice, I told her. I'm building the life I want, and I'm not waiting for permission or help from anyone. I still didn't tell Patricia about any of this. As far as she knew, I was just barely scraping by in Seattle, probably struggling, probably regretting not taking her offer. Let her think that. The less she knew about my success, the less she could try to take credit for it or undermine it. 2 years after James died, Patricia called with an unusual request. Amara, I'm having a family gathering for James's birthday. I'd like you to come. I was surprised. She'd barely spoken to me in 2 years. Why invite me now? I don't know, Patricia. Seattle to Boston is expensive, and I have work, please. It would mean a lot to the family, to honor James's memory. Something in her tone made me suspicious, but I also felt obligated. It was James's birthday. His family. Maybe I should go. Okay, I'll come. I booked a flight to Boston, requested time off work, flew across the country for this gathering. When I arrived at Patricia's house, a large, expensive home in a wealthy Boston suburb, there were about 30 people there. James's extended family, people I'd met at the wedding but hadn't seen since. They were all polite but distant, asking surface-level questions. How are you? How's Seattle? Are you still nursing? Yes, I'm still nursing. Actually, I'm a charge nurse now. Oh, that's nice. Then Patricia stood up to make a speech. About James. About family. About moving forward. James was an incredible son, and we all miss him dearly. But life goes on, and we must look forward. Which is why I wanted everyone here today. To reconnect. To support each other. She looked directly at me. Especially those of us who are struggling. My stomach dropped. Here it comes. Amara, I know these past 2 years have been hard for you. Living alone in Seattle, far from family, trying to make ends meet. And I want you to know that my offer still stands. You can move to Boston. Live with me. Let this family take care of you. Everyone was looking at me, waiting for my response. I could feel the pity in their eyes. Poor Amara, all alone, struggling, needing Patricia's charity. I took a deep breath. Patricia, I appreciate your continued offer, but I need to be clear about something. I'm not struggling. I'm thriving. Her smile faltered. Thriving? Yes, I'm a charge nurse at a major hospital. I own 3 properties in Seattle, 2 rental properties, and my home. I'm financially stable and building wealth through real estate investment. I don't need charity. I don't need help. I'm doing just fine. You could hear a pin drop. Patricia's face went through several emotions: shock, disbelief, and anger. 3 properties? How could you possibly? James's life insurance, smart investments, hard work, and financial literacy. That's how. One of James's cousins spoke up. Wait, you own rental properties? Like, you're a landlord? Yes, and I'm looking to buy a 4th property soon. Another cousin, while working as a nurse? How do you manage both? Property management companies handle day-to-day operations. I oversee the investments. It's not that complicated once you learn the system. Patricia was seething. Why didn't you tell us any of this? Because you assumed I was failing. You wanted me to fail. And I didn't know you updates on my success. That's not fair, isn't it? You told me I'd never survive without you. That I was nothing without James. That I'd fall apart. You wanted me to be dependent on you so you could finally control me the way you never could when James was alive. The room was silent. Everyone staring. But here's what you didn't count on, Patricia. I'm not just some helpless immigrant who needs saving. I'm educated. I'm skilled. I'm driven. And I come from a culture of strong women who know how to build empires from nothing. You underestimated me. And that was your mistake, not mine. I stood up. Thank you for the invitation. But I think I'll head back to my hotel now. I'm not welcome here as a successful, independent woman. You preferred me struggling. I walked out. Several family members followed me outside. Amara, wait. It was James's younger sister, Rebecca. One of the few family members who'd always been kind to me. That was incredible. I'm so proud of you. Thanks, Rebecca. And you're right. Mom has been spreading rumors that you're barely surviving, that you're drowning in debt, that you'll eventually have to crawl back to her for help. But you're not, are you? Not even close. Good. Because honestly, the way she talks about you is gross. Like she wants you to fail. She doesn't want me to fail. Because my success means she was wrong about me. And Patricia Whitmore can't stand being wrong. Rebecca hugged me. James would be so proud of you. You know that, right? I felt tears forming. I hope so. He would be. He loved how strong you are. How determined. He used to tell me, Amara doesn't need me, she wants me. That's the difference. That broke me. I started crying. After that family gathering, I flew back to Seattle feeling vindicated, but also emotionally drained. I'd proven my point, but at what cost? I'd essentially cut ties with James's family. A few days later, Rebecca called me. Amara, I have to tell you something. Mom is telling everyone that you were rude and disrespectful at the gathering, that you bragged about money and insulted the family. That's not what happened. I know. That's why I recorded your speech. You what? I recorded it on my phone. The whole thing. And I posted it on TikTok with context about how Mom has been treating you. Girl, it's going viral. Rebecca, why would you? Because people need to know the truth. The way Mom has treated you is wrong. And your story is inspiring. Hold on, I'm sending you the link. I opened the video. Sure enough, there it was. I, standing in Patricia's living room, am telling the truth about my success. The video had millions of views. Millions. And the comments were overwhelming. This woman is a queen. She rebuilt her life after tragedy. The mother-in-law wanted her to fail so bad. That's sick. As an immigrant, this story gives me hope. You can make it in America. She went from grieving widow to real estate investor? Iconic. I love how calm she stayed while destroying that woman's narrative. There were negative comments, too, of course. People saying I was disrespectful, that I should have been grateful for Patricia's offer, that I was bragging. But the overwhelming majority were supportive. Women from all over the world share their own stories of being underestimated, of being told they'd fail, of proving people wrong. The video caught the attention of media outlets. Local news wanted to interview me. National morning shows reached out. Real estate investment podcasts wanted me as a guest. At first, I said no to all of them. I didn't want fame. I just wanted to live my life. But then I thought about all those comments. All those women saying my story inspired them, gave them hope. Maybe I had a responsibility to share my story. to show other women, especially immigrant women, that you can survive, rebuild, and thrive, even when everyone expects you to fail. So I started saying yes to interviews. My first interview was with a local Seattle news station. They wanted to hear about my journey from immigrant nurse to real estate investor. I told my story honestly about James's death, about Patricia's offer that was really an attempt to control me, about choosing to build my own life instead. What would you say to other women who are being told they can't survive on their own? The reporter asked. I'd say don't let anyone else define your capabilities. People will try to convince you that you need them, that you can't make it without them. But that's usually about their need to feel important, not about your actual abilities. Trust yourself, educate yourself, and build the life you want, regardless of what anyone says. That clip went viral, too, shared millions of times. I started getting messages from women all over the world. Your story inspired me to leave my toxic marriage. I'm an immigrant too, and you showed me it's possible to thrive here. I was afraid to invest in real estate, but your story gave me courage. I realized I had a platform, an unexpected platform, and I could use it to help people. So I started a YouTube channel, posted videos about financial literacy, about real estate investing for beginners, about navigating grief while building a future, about being an immigrant in America. My channel grew quickly. Within 6 months, I had 100,000 subscribers. Within a year, 500,000. I was making money from YouTube ad revenue, sponsorships, and affiliate marketing. Not life-changing money, but significant supplemental income. I also started offering online courses, real estate investing for working professionals, financial literacy for immigrants, building wealth while healing from loss. The courses sold well, really well. I was making 6 figures from my online business alone, separate from my nursing income and rental income. I'd gone from a grieving widow who was told she'd never survive to a multi-income entrepreneur who was thriving beyond anyone's expectations, including my own. About a year after the viral video, Patricia reached out, not to apologize, but to complain. Amara, you've humiliated this family. Do you have any idea how many people have seen that video? How many people are judging us? Patricia, the video shows exactly what happened. I didn't lie about anything. You made me look like a villain. You made yourself look like a villain. I just told the truth. I was trying to help you. And this is how you repay me. Help me or control me? Because those are two different things. She was silent for a moment. Then you've changed. Money and success have made you arrogant. I laughed. No, Patricia. I've always been this strong. You just preferred me weak and grateful. I'm done with you. The family is done with you. That's fine. I have my own family. I've built my own community. I don't need the Whitmore family's approval. She hung up, and that was the last time we spoke. Rebecca, on the other hand, reached out regularly. She'd started her own journey of financial independence, inspired by my story. We became closer than we'd ever been when James was alive. I'm so glad you stood up to Mom, Rebecca told me. She's had this grip on the family for so long. Always controlling everyone. Always acting like we can't survive without her. You broke that spell. How's she doing? Honestly, she's bitter. She can't stand that you succeeded without her help. Can't stand that you're thriving. It's like a personal insult to her. That's sad. It is. But it's also freeing. For those of us who are learning that we don't need her approval to live our lives. Several other Whitmore family members reached out too. Younger cousins, mostly, asking for advice, wanting to learn about investing, wanting to build their own independence. I helped them, offered free consultations, shared resources, because my success wasn't about revenge against Patricia. It was about building a life I was proud of. And if I could help others do the same, even better. 3 years after James's death, my life looked completely different. I still worked as a charge nurse. I loved nursing, and I wasn't ready to give it up. But I'd reduced my hours to part-time, giving me more time to manage my growing business empire. Yes, empire, because that's what it had become. I now own 8 rental properties in Seattle. All are generating positive cash flow. All professionally managed. All building my wealth. I'd also started a property management company, managing properties for other small investors. That business alone was generating six figures annually. My YouTube channel had grown to over 2 million subscribers. I was getting paid for sponsored content, had affiliate partnerships, and my online courses were selling better than ever. I'd written a book, From Grief to Growth: How I Built an Empire After Loss. It became a bestseller. I was invited to speak at conferences, universities, and women's empowerment events. My speaking fees alone were covering my annual living expenses. I'd also started a nonprofit, the James Whitmore Foundation for Immigrant Success. It offered financial literacy classes, mentorship programs, and small business grants to immigrants building lives in America. The nonprofit was my way of honoring James's memory. He'd always believed in me, always supported my dreams. This was my way of passing that support forward. I'd traveled back to Nigeria multiple times, visiting family, reconnecting with my roots, and investing in businesses there too. I was building wealth across 2 continents. And I was dating again. Not seriously, just casually. But I was open to love, open to building a new chapter. I'd survived. Not just survived, thrived. Built an empire. Became the woman I was always meant to be. And Patricia? She'd watched it all from Boston, unable to accept that I'd done it without her. Unable to accept that her prophecy had been wrong. For years after James's death, I got an unexpected call. From Patricia. Amara, I need to talk to you. I'm listening. In person. Can you come to Boston? Why? Please. It's important. Against my better judgment, I agreed. Flew to Boston. Met Patricia at a coffee shop near her home. She looked older, tired, less intimidating than she'd seemed for years ago. Thank you for coming, she said. What did you want to talk about? She took a deep breath. I've been following your success. The properties, the YouTube channel, the book, the foundation, all of it. Okay. And I need to say something I should have said years ago. I was wrong. I stared at her, genuinely shocked. I was wrong about you. Wrong to assume you'd fail. Wrong to want you to fail. Wrong to treat you the way I did. What brought this on? I've been in therapy. A lot of therapy. Dealing with my own issues. Control issues, mainly. My therapist helped me see that my treatment of you wasn't about you at all. It was about me. About my fear of losing James, my fear of being irrelevant, my need to feel needed. Patricia, let me finish. When James died, I saw an opportunity to finally get you to need me, to depend on me, to give me the role in your life that I'd wanted but never had. And when you refused, when you chose independence, I took it personally. I wanted you to fail to prove I'd been right. That's sick. I know it's sick. And I'm sorry. I sat back, processing this. I appreciate your apology. I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed you to know that I see it now. I see how strong you are, how capable, how remarkable. James saw it from the beginning. I should have too. We sat in silence for a moment. The foundation, Patricia said. The one you named after James. Can I contribute to it? You want to donate? I want to help. If you'll let me. Not to control it. Not to take credit. Just to support the work you're doing. It's what James would have wanted. I thought about it. Okay, but on one condition. Anything. You volunteer. Actually show up. Work with the immigrants we're helping. Learn their stories. See their strength. And maybe you'll understand me better too. Patricia nodded, tears in her eyes. I'd like that. 5 years after James's death, I was standing on stage at a major women's conference in Los Angeles. 5,000 women in the audience. Millions more are watching the live stream. They told me I'd never survive, I said into the microphone. They said I was nothing without my husband, nothing without his family support, that I'd fall apart and come crawling back for help. I paused, looking out at the sea of faces. They were wrong, not because I'm special, not because I'm superhuman, but because I refused to accept their narrative about who I was and what I was capable of. Applause erupted. I'm here to tell you that you are more capable than anyone gives you credit for. You are stronger than you think. You can survive things you don't think you can survive. And not just survive, thrive. I shared my full story. The immigration. The difficult mother-in-law. James's death. The prophecy of failure. The choice to build anyway. Success isn't about proving people wrong, I said. It's about proving yourself right. It's about believing in your own capacity to learn, grow, adapt, and overcome. After the speech, hundreds of women lined up to talk to me, to share their stories, to ask for advice, to thank me for inspiring them. One woman, tears streaming down her face, said, "I'm in the process of leaving an abusive marriage. Everyone's telling me I can't make it on my own. Your story showed me that I can." "You absolutely can," I told her. "It won't be easy, but you can." Another woman, "I'm an immigrant from Somalia. I've been here 5 years and still feel like I don't belong. Your story reminded me that I do belong, that I can build a life here. You do belong, and you will build an amazing life. I'm rooting for you." These conversations reminded me why I'd said yes to this public platform, why I'd chosen to share my story despite its vulnerability. Because representation matters. Because seeing someone who looks like you, talks like you, comes from where you come from, seeing them succeed permits you to believe you can too. The James Whitmore Foundation had grown beyond anything I'd imagined. In its first 3 years, we'd served over 5,000 immigrants. We offered free financial literacy classes in multiple languages. We provided business mentorship and small business grants. We connected immigrants with resources for housing, education, and career development. Patricia had kept her promise. She'd been volunteering at the foundation for over a year, working directly with the people we served. I'd watched her transform, watched her talk to a Somali woman struggling to build a life in America, watched her help a Mexican man prepare a business plan, watched her learn, really learn, about the strength and resilience of immigrants. One day, after a foundation event, Patricia pulled me aside. "I need to tell you something." "Okay." "Working here, meeting these people, hearing their stories, it's changed me. I've spent my whole life in a bubble of privilege, thinking that success was only possible if you had family money, connections, the right background. But these people have none of that, and they're building incredible lives anyway." She paused, emotional. "I understand now what I couldn't see before. You didn't need me because you're like them. You're a builder. You're someone who creates opportunity rather than waiting for it. I'm sorry it took me so long to see that." "Thank you, Patricia. Can I ask you something?" "Sure. Do you think James would be proud of me? Of the work I'm doing now?" I thought about James. His kindness, his belief in redemption, his hope that his mother would eventually come around. "Yeah, I think he would be. He always wanted you to see people the way he saw them, with compassion and possibility." Patricia wiped her eyes. "I miss him so much." "Me too." We hugged. It wasn't a perfect reconciliation. There was still history between us, still pain. But it was healing. Real, genuine healing. 6 years after James's death, I met someone new. His name was David, and he was a financial advisor I'd met through my real estate investing circles. I wasn't looking for love. I wasn't even sure I was ready. But David was patient, kind, and respected my independence in a way that felt safe. "I don't want to be your savior," he told me on our third date. "I want to be your partner. Someone who adds to your life, not someone you need to survive." That's what sold me. The understanding that I was whole on my own, and he was just someone who made life better, not possible. We dated for a year before he proposed. And this time, the relationship felt different, more balanced, more healthy, built on mutual respect rather than need. Patricia gave us her blessing. Actually seemed happy for me. "You deserve this," she told me. "You deserve someone who sees your strength and celebrates it rather than feeling threatened by it." "Thank you, Patricia. I mean it. And Amara, thank you for not giving up on me, for letting me learn and grow. Not many people would have given me that chance. Everyone deserves a chance to become better." If I could talk to the version of myself from 6 years ago, the one who just lost her husband, the one who was being told she'd never survive, the one who was scared and grieving and uncertain, here's what I'd say: you're about to go through hell. Real, painful, difficult hell. But you're also about to discover just how strong you really are. That woman who tells you that you'll never survive without her? She's wrong. Dead wrong. And in 6 years, You're going to prove it in ways you can't even imagine right now. You're going to own 8 rental properties. You're going to have 2 million YouTube subscribers. You're going to write a best-selling book. You're going to start a foundation that changes thousands of lives. But more importantly, you're going to discover that you're not half of a whole. You're a complete person, fully capable of building an extraordinary life on your own terms. James loved you because you were strong and independent. Honor that by continuing to be strong and independent. Don't shrink yourself to fit other people's expectations. Don't let anyone convince you that your worth is tied to their approval. And when people underestimate you, let them. Their underestimation is not your problem. Your success is not about proving them wrong. It's about proving yourself right. You've got this. You've always had this. You just didn't know it yet. That's what I'd tell her. That's what I wish someone had told me. 7 years after James's death, I was invited to speak at TEDx Seattle. The topic, the power of being underestimated. I told my story on that red dot. The whole thing, the grief, the prophecy, the choice to build anyway, the empire I'd created, the healing I'd found. The talk ended with me saying, when someone tells you that you'll never survive without them, hear what they're really saying. I need you to need me. I need to feel important. I need to control you. Your survival threatens their sense of power. So survive anyway. Thrive anyway. Build anyway. Because your success is the best response to anyone who bet on your failure. The audience gave me a standing ovation that lasted 3 minutes. The TEDx talk went viral. Not just regular viral, super viral. 30 million views in 2 weeks. Shared across every platform. Featured on news outlets worldwide. My phone exploded with messages, interview requests, speaking invitations, book deal offers. Even Hollywood producers want to option my story for a movie. It was overwhelming but also validating. My story resonated because so many people had been told they weren't enough, that they'd never make it, that they needed someone else to survive, and they needed to hear that those prophecies were lies. The viral TEDx talk brought Patricia back into the spotlight, too. Media outlets tracked her down, wanting her response. At first, she avoided the press, but eventually, she agreed to an interview with a local Boston station. I watched the interview from Seattle, nervous about what she might say. The reporter asked, Mrs. Whitmore, your daughter-in-law has become quite famous for overcoming your prediction that she'd never survive without your help. How do you feel about that? Patricia took a deep breath. I feel ashamed, deeply ashamed. I was wrong about Amara in every possible way. I let my own insecurities and control issues drive me to say cruel things to a woman who just lost her husband. My son would have been horrified by my behavior. Have you apologized? Yes, multiple times. And Amara, being the incredible person she is, has shown me grace I don't deserve. She even let me volunteer at the foundation she created in my son's name. Working there has been the most humbling and educational experience of my life. What have you learned? That strength comes in many forms. Immigrants like Amara are some of the strongest, most resilient people in this country. That my privilege blinded me to the reality of what people are capable of when they're driven by necessity and determination. And that I was a terrible mother-in-law who tried to break down a woman I should have been supporting. The reporter pressed, some people might say you're only apologizing now because she became successful. That if she'd actually struggled like you predicted, you'd be saying I told you so. Patricia nodded. They'd probably be right. And that's what makes this so shameful. My apology shouldn't be dependent on her success. It should have come the moment I realized how cruel I'd been. But it took seeing her thrive, seeing her build an empire, seeing her help thousands of people. It took all of that for me to really understand how wrong I was. She looked directly at the camera. Amara, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. Not because you proved me wrong, but because I was wrong to say those things in the first place. You deserve support, not sabotage. And I'm working every day to be better, to be the kind of person James would have wanted me to be. I sat there crying, watching it. Not because I needed Patricia's validation, but it took courage to admit that on national television, to own it publicly. I called her that night. I saw your interview. I meant every word. I know you did. Thank you. Amara, can I ask you something? Sure. How did you do it? How did you push through when everyone was telling you you'd fail? Honestly, I didn't have a choice. Giving up wasn't an option. I was in a foreign country, my husband was dead, and I had two paths: crumble or build. I chose to build because that's what my mother taught me. That's what Nigerian women do, we build. I wish I'd known that about you from the beginning. You didn't want to know. You wanted me to fit your narrative of the helpless immigrant who married your son for security. When I didn't fit that narrative, you tried to force me into it. You're right. I did. And I'm sorry. I forgive you, Patricia. I forgave you a while ago. But I also need you to know I didn't build this empire to prove you wrong. I built it because I wanted a life I was proud of. Your opinion was irrelevant. She laughed a real laugh. That's the most freeing thing you could say to someone like me. That my opinion doesn't matter. I spent my whole life thinking everyone needed my approval. Turns out, the strongest people don't. A year after the TEDx talk, a documentary filmmaker approached me about telling my story in a feature-length film. I want to show the full journey, she explained. From Nigeria to America. From love to loss. From grief to empire. And most importantly, from being told you're nothing to proving you're everything. I agreed, with conditions. I want to include other women's stories too. Other immigrants who were told they'd fail and succeeded anyway. This isn't just about me. I love that idea. We spent a year filming. Interviewed me, my family in Nigeria, my American friends, my business partners, the people I'd helped through the foundation. We also interviewed Patricia. She was vulnerable and honest about her mistakes, her growth, her transformation. And we interviewed 5 other immigrant women with similar stories. Women who'd been underestimated, counted out, told they'd never make it, and who'd built incredible lives anyway. The documentary, titled Against All Odds, Immigrant Women Who Built Empires, premiered at the Sundance Film Festival. It won the Audience Award and got picked up by Netflix. Within a month of its Netflix release, it was the #1 documentary in 47 countries. The impact was immediate and profound. Immigration advocacy groups used it as a teaching tool. Business schools analyzed it. Women's organizations screened it. But the most meaningful response came from immigrant women themselves. Thousands of them reached out to share how the film inspired them, how it validated their struggles, how it gave them courage to keep building despite the obstacles. One woman from India wrote, "I watched your documentary and cried for 2 hours. I've been in America for 3 years, and my in-laws treat me the same way Patricia treated you. Your story showed me I don't have to accept their narrative about who I am." Another from Mexico, "I'm a single mother working 2 jobs and going to school. Everyone tells me I'm crazy, that I should give up, that I'll never make it. Your story reminded me that never is not a word that applies to women like us." These messages reminded me why I'd said yes to the documentary, why I'd been willing to be vulnerable and public about my pain. Because representation saves lives. Because when you see someone who looks like you succeed, it gives you permission to believe you can too. 8 years after James's death, I was living a life I could never have imagined. David and I had been married for 2 years. We bought a beautiful home together, separate from my investment properties, where we were building our life. I'd scaled back my nursing to just 1 shift a week. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to stay connected to the work that had grounded me through the hardest times. My real estate portfolio had grown to 15 properties. My property management company was managing over 50 properties for other investors. The foundation had served over 20,000 immigrants. We'd given out over $2 million in grants. We'd helped hundreds of people start businesses, buy homes, get educated. My YouTube channel had 4 million subscribers. My second book, Building Wealth as an Immigrant, was a New York Times bestseller. I'd been featured in Forbes, Fast Company Incorporated magazine, and dozens of other publications. Named one of the top 50 women entrepreneurs to watch. But the achievement I was most proud of? I'd brought my mother from Nigeria to live with me in America. "Amara," she said, looking around at my home, my life, my success. "I always knew you'd do well. But this is beyond anything I imagined. You taught me, Mama. You taught me that women in our family don't wait for permission. We build. Your father would be so proud. James would be so proud. I hope so. My mother smiled. They are proud. I know they are. Because you didn't just survive. You created a legacy. 9 years after James's death, I was invited back to Boston for a special event. The city was naming a community center after James, the James Whitmore Center for Immigrant Services. Patricia had spearheaded the effort, raising millions of dollars to build the center. It would offer all the services the foundation provided, plus job training, legal assistance, childcare, and more. I wanted to do something meaningful, Patricia told me at the grand opening. Something that would honor James and honor you. This center will help thousands of immigrants build lives here, just like you did. This is incredible, Patricia. It's the least I could do. I spent years tearing you down. Now I want to spend the rest of my life building up others like you. The center was beautiful. State-of-the-art facilities, staffed by people who understood the immigrant experience, designed to truly serve the community. At the ribbon-cutting ceremony, Patricia asked me to speak. I stood in front of the crowd, hundreds of people, many of them immigrants who would be served by this center, and I felt James's presence. 9 years ago, I was told I'd never survive without help, that I was nothing without my husband, that I'd fall apart and fail. I looked at Patricia, who was crying. That prophecy was wrong, but it was also a gift, because it forced me to discover my own strength, to build something from nothing, to prove, not to anyone else, but to myself, that I was capable of more than I'd ever imagined. I gestured to the building behind me. This center stands as proof that words matter, that prophecies of failure can become fuel for success, and that when someone tells you that you can't, you can use that as motivation to show yourself that you absolutely can. To everyone who will be served by this center, you belong here. You are wanted here. You are capable of extraordinary things. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Build anyway. Dream anyway. Succeed anyway. The crowd erupted in applause. People were crying, cheering, celebrating. After the ceremony, a young woman approached me. She looked about 25, clearly nervous. Miss Amara, my name is Fatima. I'm from Syria. I've been in America for 2 years. I've been following your story since the documentary. You're the reason I believed I could go to college here. The reason I applied for that scholarship. The reason I didn't give up. She was crying now. I just wanted to thank you for showing me that it's possible. I hugged her. What are you studying? Nursing. I want to be a nurse like you. And then maybe I'll invest in real estate too. She laughed through her tears. I want to build an empire like yours. You will, Fatima. You absolutely will. And when you do, reach back and help the next person climb up. I promise I will. That moment, that right there, that's why I did all of this. Not for the money, not for the fame, not even to prove Patricia wrong, but to show other women like Fatima that the American dream isn't dead. It's just harder for some of us, but it's possible. It's absolutely possible. That night, after the grand opening, I went to James's grave. I hadn't been there in years, not because I'd forgotten him, but because I'd carried him with me in other ways. But tonight felt right. Full circle. I sat down beside his headstone and pulled out a letter I'd written that morning. Dear James, it's been 9 years since you left. 9 years of building a life I never expected to live. 9 years of proving wrong the people who said I'd never make it. I wish you could see what I've built. The properties, the businesses, the foundation that bears your name, the impact we're having on thousands of lives. But more than that, I wish you could see who I've become. Not just successful, but whole. Not just surviving, but thriving. Not just existing, but truly living. Your mother told me I'd never survive without you. She was wrong, but not in the way she thought. I survived because you taught me that I was already complete. That I didn't need you, I chose you. And that choice was rooted in love, not necessity. When you died, I had a choice. Crumble or build. I chose to build. And in building, I discovered that the strength you saw in me was real. That the potential you believed in was there all along. I've remarried James. His name is David, and he's good to me. He doesn't try to replace you, no one could, but he adds to my life in ways that are healthy and beautiful. I hope you'd approve. I think you would. You always wanted me to be happy, to be loved, to be seen for who I really am. Your mother has changed, by the way. Really changed. She volunteers at the foundation. She's humble now, open, different. It's like losing you broke something in her that needed to break. And she's put herself back together as a better person. I've forgiven her. Not because she deserves it, but because I deserve peace. I miss you, James. I'll always miss you. But I'm not stuck in missing you. I'm living, fully living. And I think that would make you proud. Thank you for seeing me when others didn't. Thank you for believing in me when I wasn't sure I believed in myself. Thank you for loving me the way you did. I'm okay, James. Better than okay. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Love always. Amara. I folded the letter and left it at his grave, weighted down with a stone. As I walked back to my car, I felt lighter. Like I'd finally closed a chapter and fully stepped into the next one. 10 years after James's death, I was sitting on the porch of my home, watching the sunset over Seattle, reflecting on the journey. A decade ago, I was a grieving widow being told I'd never survive. Today, I'm a successful entrepreneur, best-selling author, philanthropist, and wife. I've built an empire that provides housing for dozens of families, employment for hundreds of people, and support for thousands of immigrants. But more importantly, I've built a life I'm proud of. A life that honors James's memory while also honoring my own potential. David came out onto the porch, handed me a cup of tea. What are you thinking about? Just reflecting on how far I've come. How much has changed? Any regrets? None. Well, maybe one. What's that? I wish I'd believed in myself sooner. I wish I hadn't needed Patricia's doubt to fuel my ambition. I wish I'd known from the beginning that I was capable of all this. But would you have pushed as hard if you'd known? He had a point. Sometimes we need resistance to discover our strength. Sometimes we need someone to bet against us to find our determination. Maybe not. Maybe Patricia's prophecy was exactly what I needed. The villain I needed to become the hero of my own story. David smiled. She's not much of a villain anymore. No, she's not. She's just a woman who made mistakes and learned from them. Same as all of us. My phone buzzed. A text from Fatima, the Syrian girl I'd met at the center opening. Ms. Amara, I just graduated with my BSN. I'm a registered nurse. Thank you for inspiring me to never give up. I smiled, texted back congratulations. Another success story? David asked. Another one. She's the third person this week to message me about achieving their goals. That's your real legacy, you know. Not the properties or the money, but the people you've inspired. He was right. My net worth didn't define my success. The lives I touched did. I'd been told I'd never survive without her. Without Patricia's help. Without the Whitmore family's support. They were wrong. I didn't just survive. I built an empire. Changed thousands of lives. Became a voice for the underestimated and overlooked. And I did it all by refusing to accept someone else's limited vision of who I was and what I was capable of. That's the real power. Not in proving people wrong, but in proving yourself right.
Like, subscribe, and share with your friends who related to it. Comment below for next story.